What up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Grid and Grind Show. Tonight is a good one. We're gonna take flight tonight. We're not gonna talk about Flight Club, but we are gonna talk about Flight Club. So get ready for that. But before we jump into all things Carolina Flight, we got to plug sponsors. Tonight's episode is being brought to you by the Mental Game Performance Coaching. All right, some players can do it at practice, but others have a tough time transitioning that practice into game time. If you are having a tough time managing the pressure, the anxiety, the fear, the failure that comes with being a top-level competitive athlete, go to tmgperformancecoaching.com, fill out a free game planning session, and see how the mental game coaches can help you. Chinook seeds, 8 flavors, mild to wild. Go to your local gas station, grocery store, convenience store. Pick up the best sunflower seeds in the game. It's baseball season, and what better way to enjoy a nice, beautiful day at the ballpark than with your very own bag of Chinook sunflower seeds. Jesus One Apparel. Go to JesusOneApparel.com. Type in the code IOTB20 for 20% off your order. They got these nice fly, lightweight hoodies and more. T-shirts, all colors, all shapes, all sizes. Check them out. You won't be disappointed. And finally, Old Dominick Distillery, bourbon, vodka, whiskey, gin. Go to OldDominickDistillery.com and find what speaks to you. Every event, every occasion, every palate. I'm telling you, you'll find something that you like. And with that, we got to get to the business at hand. Help me welcome onto the show the owner of the Carolina Flight, the newest United Grid League team, Cody Loeffler. Cody, what's up, brother?
How we doing, man? Thank you, Daniel. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
Absolutely, man. We are blessed. 2 feet hit the ground this morning, so we are blessed to be able to stand up and carry out our day, man.
Yes, sir.
I will say, how are you? Because every day it seems like from the inception of us finding out that there's a new team in the league, the Carolina Flight have posted something, done something, and it just seems like that it's a whirlwind. So without getting into specifics, because we'll get into all that, have you had a chance to breathe yet? And take a breath and relax.
You know what, man? And you kind of let in with some of the sponsors and the hoodie and everything you got going on. And first and foremost, I'm just going to say God is good. And he's been very good to me and my journey and my family. And this is, in every way, shape, or form, a big part of that. You know, every player on my team knows that from me when I was in the recruiting process, just that, this was such a godsend and kind of a mission oriented deal that was not on my bingo card whatsoever. But I don't know. I think, sometimes you're just in it and that's what it is. So I try not to think too much about it, but I'm doing my best. And we've got, let me say this. I mean, we have a great team. So, my wife, Emily, is a co-owner with me, and she's a major role player behind the scenes. And of course, I could never forget Vilma Rosario, Vilma Gray now, who is just does a when I say this would not be possible without Vilma and her assistants, and just diving in head first with me and Emily from the rip. There is probably no better partner that I could have, asked for in the process of doing all this. So she can't be here tonight, but big shout out to her. She's a huge part of this thing.
Yeah, I think not to speak for Vilma, but she's got some bigger priorities. I'm just a small fish, so I get it.
Oh, bigger priorities, right.
Much bigger. So that's going to be awesome for her. I'm so happy for them, and they're growing their family. And obviously, part of Grid is her and what she embodies, and that's well known and well felt throughout all the athletes and players and everyone involved. So great to have met her. Great to know her.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty cool because I'm sure you'll find out when we start talking about players, like our team is very just family oriented. You know what I mean? Like we got a lot of kids coming to camp with us. We got a lot of people that are growing big families, and it's something that part of our team and team culture. And again, I'm sure we'll have opportunity to dive into that, but it's it's a big part of it. And I think that we're just really, really excited about this opportunity to play on the Grid. And man, you kind of alluded to it before. Like we're on a very short timeline. But we've been able to make a pretty like impactful punch here, like relatively quickly. And there's just a lot to be excited about from our players and their stories. And that's what this is all about, for me. And I'll talk more about that later, but for sure.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into them, let's talk a little bit about you. Obviously, you don't just what I have learned about people that get into grid or know grid or are in the inner workings of the sport is there is a passion, a deep-rooted passion for fitness. And so some find fitness through sport as a kid growing up. Some have an epiphany later in life and they're like, I've got to make some changes and they find fitness. But for you, Cody, like where does fitness fall in the continuum of your life? Is it early? Is it middle? Is it late? Like what are we doing with fitness? How's it fall?
Yeah, just to clarify, this is about my life or grid. I just want to, because there's two answers for me.
Your
But
life,
yeah, for my life, you know what, man, growing up, fitness for me as a kid was throwing hay bales off the back of a truck with my dad and haying straw bales, and very, very blessed to, have great parents and, kind of have the upbringing that I did. I played a ton of sports, but, fitness in, the 90s was, as a kid, was not necessarily something that was like super, front view. I think my wife's story around fitness is probably more relevant, but so I was just a ball player. I played baseball, basketball, football, played a little bit of soccer, and football was kind of my takeoff. So, played that all through high school, and that was the first like dose of fitness that I really got into, because in about maybe sixth or seventh grade, one of my best friends was going to the YMCA, and he was starting to do weight training, and so I tagged along with him, and we learned some things, and they walked us around, and we did some machines, and later that kind of rolled into being a football player and understanding the weight room, and being a major part of my life. So probably through high school, I always viewed like training as a mechanism for sport. Like to me, that's what an athlete is, right? So I think like, again, I don't say this to start any wars, but like, in gyms, right, we throw around the term athlete a lot. I'm not even opposed to it, so don't come for me if you have offense for this. But I always viewed athlete as somebody who's training, specifically for expressing a task. And so for whatever that sport may be, that's sort of where the athlete thing trickles, and that's a big part of like really who I am, why I'm even here today inside of Grid. Excuse me. Excuse me. But that part, as it pertains to fitness, is also how I got into the CrossFit space. So played football. That was like my first dose. Everything was a means to an end, but I always prided myself in being the hardest worker in the room. And, definitely a leader, culture guy, but also, somebody who's just willing to get in the trenches and grind, right? Like grit and grind.
That's right, baby.
Move that forward. I played football at a small Division III school in Pennsylvania, Susquehanna University. Had a great career there and a lot of fun. We didn't win a whole lot of games, but they're really perennial powerhouse now, and it's cool to see that. And I made a ton of friendships and relationships that I still possess today. It's a brotherhood like anything, but just also like people inside and outside of the program that were part of the university. So, it's a really unique thing to go play, D3 football, no NIL, no big lights, no TV. It's a job. We sucked at the time, right? And so you're banging your head against the wall, and you're learning every day about yourself. What you've got inside. Do you have grit? Are you willing to stick it out? Are you going to quit? So I always tell people like, I love winning because like I've lost probably more than most people. And I've lived through some like really like, terrible losses in sports. And I always learned more from that because it taught me more about who I am and just ultimately how to live like in what is very uncomfortable. Right. I'm sure that rings a bell with a lot of people who do CrossFit. So fast forward, got out of school. I was a teacher, and I was teaching in a high school in Pennsylvania, Souderton High School. And a guy named Josh Wagner, who was a teacher in the building, tapped me on the shoulder during a in-service day, and he said, "Hey, man, I see you lifting weights all the time and running around the building and doing all this crazy stuff. Have you ever thought about doing CrossFit?" And I was like, "Well, I think CrossFit's really stupid because I tried it in college and I thought it was dumb, and I didn't understand it, right?" And he goes, "I got this CrossFit gym. Why don't you come try it?" I said, "Okay." So I went down to his gym. It took me a few months to commit, but I went down to his gym and I looked inside and everybody looked like Hercules and the music was blasting. And I was like, all right, I got to get into this. Turns out his wife is a lady by the name of Tanya Wagner, who was the 2009 fittest woman in the world. And this is their gym. And so that's where I started CrossFit, was with Tanya Wagner. And so Tanya and Josh, both phenomenal athletes. There was another guy there named Keith Bussum, great athlete. And they just brought me under their wing. And, this is 2011. So they're asking me, "Are you doing the open? Are you doing the open?" I'm like, "What's the open?" They're like, I'm just here to get shredded. Like, I don't care about anything. And, fast forward, it turns out that it's a sport. And I'm like, well, great. Because I can compete. Anybody can do it. Who's Rich Froning? Like, it doesn't matter. So dove in, really started to progress quickly in the sport. Obviously, I was coming from football. So, there was a lot of things I needed to get better at, but there was obviously a lot of things that were natural to me. And the biggest thing that was natural to me was just work capacity, because like I said, grew up on a hay truck, played ball, was willing to die before dropping a medicine ball. So anyway, that's what propelled me early on. And, went to some regional appearances, and eventually my teaching role shifted, and I moved to a different school district. And that's where I got plugged in with a gym, CrossFit Explode. Amazing gym, amazing owner. That's where my wife and I kind of met. And then we had some really good years there and put some games teams together. So again, this is before it was cool to be on a team at games, right? So literally, yeah. I think the year before, 13 and 14, and then I think 15 is when Rich decided he was going or something like that. But so yeah, that was like the span of, obviously there's a lot of things inside of that. But the reason I talked through all those things and where fitness resonated with me was, honestly, it was not like a big picture for me growing up. It was more so when I got out of college, I had this identity crisis like everybody else who plays a sport, in particular football, that you can't really go play again. You take the helmet off for the last time. That's really it, unless you're, playing on Sundays. So at least baseball and, basketball and all these things that I still really enjoy doing, you can go play a league. You can't do that in football. So I had this massive, like, what do I do? What do I do now? And I think the only answer to that was just hurt real bad, and CrossFit, rung the bell. Yeah, rung the bell for me on that. So that was kind of the journey up to that point. And there's more to that, but 2014 is about when it transitions to grid. So I'll shut up and see what if you have anything to say.
I mean, that's a incredible story. I mean, obviously, how much credit, or do you, when you meet a guy like Josh Wagner and he introduces you, like, I guess it's easy to say, like, this guy changed your life, or maybe the trajectory, because through CrossFit and what he introduced you to, you meet your wife, and I'm sure like that in and of itself.
Yeah, the story is pretty wild. Like, so Josh and Tom introduced me to the sport. I give them all the credit. I mean, I learned how to do this very well there. And when I shifted gyms, I ended up at this place, CrossFit Explode. That's where the games teams that I competed on were from. And the guy that ran that gym, Brian Quinlan, I mean, you want to talk about like just a mentor for me. I mean, for the better half of whatever it ended up being there, 5 years. I mean, I trained every day under this guy. He was a games individual in 2013. And we had a team out there in 13 also. I wasn't on it because I'd gone individual that year, and the team made it like last second due to a failed drug test. They were fourth, so they got in. And so just being around like extremely high level competitors. Brian was a killer, man. I mean, you want to talk about somebody teaching you how to turn the knife. Like, Brian was that for me. So I give him all the credit in the world for taking me from somebody who like really learned the game at a high level right off the bat. I was so lucky to have Tanya and Josh and CrossFit Apex, and then landing at CrossFit Explode and like having this massive, like, if you want to go win at the highest level and slit throats and get it done, this is the place to do it. So, yeah, we had a great run there. And I mean, there was I'm not lying to you when I say, I mean, there were 6 people on that, this is the 6-person teams. There were 3 males and 3 females on those games teams. And when I tell you that there were 3 and 3 more right behind us that could have stepped into any one of our places, I mean that. So it was a very, you know, dog eat
Training
dog.
camp before training camps were cool.
Exactly, dude. I'm telling you exactly. So, and people in the area, and we weren't the only ones. There was a lot of gyms regionally that were this way. But as far as the old Mid Atlantic region back then, yeah, people used to come down and train with us, and we loved that because it was always an opportunity to learn, and that's what CrossFit is about. Is like you gotta work your weaknesses, you gotta find those weaknesses and seek them. And so I was not the most complete CrossFitter in the world. Like I had big time weaknesses. But I was capable and I had some good finishes and certainly performed well as an individual. But I just always looked at as the team as like, I'm not going to make it individually. Um, even though like some of my finishes would say that maybe I could. Like I had several top 10 finishes, and I think my best finish ever was a 7th in the world on one open workout. But I mean, if you're good at something and you can dig in, but like, regionally I had the finishes. I never felt like, at the end of the day, like 3 people go to California, right? And so as a team, for me, again, this comes back to the sport mentality. I was all about, I joke about this. Like if you're an OG CrossFitter, you'll understand this. Like I wanted the shorts. You know what I mean? You get to the games, you get a pair of shorts with a number on them, and then nobody can take that from
You want that lane marker and them shorts, man.
you. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Hey, no sponsors, no Instagram. You know what I mean? And I say that lightly. We had 1 or 2 sponsors that helped us out. There was a rope company called Milspec Rope back then that no longer exists. So I don't want to dog those guys, but like this was pre, today, right? Where it's like you got the followers and you got the sponsors and everybody's going everywhere. And so very, very proud to kind of been part of that era and experiencing that. Um, and obviously I'm extremely lucky, man, because that's like you check those 2 boxes with people that I got to learn from. And when we segue the conversation here into grid, I'm going to add another one that's pretty phenomenal that I got to just be under. So it's cool.
Well, let's go there. Obviously, all of this, is great, and it sets a good foundation for
Yep.
grid and being introduced. And I'm sure the networks interconnect um, throughout wherever you're doing CrossFit. But for you, when do you first learn about grid, and how does the role that you have with grid then stack? Like, how do you get to where you are as an owner today?
Yeah. So around about that time that we were doing competing for the games teams, um, back in the day, again, old school CrossFit, there was a guy named Tony Budding, who was the head of media for the CrossFit Games. And in that same year that we were training in 2014, like on that same timeline for the run, Tony comes out and he announces that there's going to be like this new sport, and you're going to get paid to play it, and you're going to go to these combines and calling all CrossFitters, man, like we want them all. And everybody's eyes open, big. And there were 4 combines nationwide. The one my wife and I went to was the one in Boston. Got to meet some really awesome people. Some of them, before they were famous kind of things, but really unique. And that really started the relationships. Mather and Ruby were at that combine. And at the time, they were again, I'm not going to speak for them. I don't know the whole story, but I know they were trying to get a team in the original National Pro Grid League.
Mhm.
And so I'd had several conversations with them. We were from the same area. They were at a gym in the city, and I was in the gym just outside of the city. And we knew who doesn't want to play for the hometown team, right? And they were hoping that they would get that team. They ended up not getting that team because there was a different person that picked up the Philadelphia Founders, and then they wound up getting a bid for a team out of Miami, the Surge. So went to the combines, advanced to that's the first taste of grid that I ever got. And basically on Friday, the girls tried out individual skills. Saturday, the males tried out individual skills. And then Sunday, they put you on teams and you ran races. And like my team was like, Katrin Davis' daughter and Justin Collar was the coach. And like, Gretchen Kittleberger was on that team and Ron Ortiz, like just all these like crazy names that span out over time. And every team was like that. And so, you advanced on. They had this Las Vegas combine that was a month or two later. And basically, if you made it to the Las Vegas combine, then you were eligible for the draft. And so there was a team from Phoenix, the Phoenix Rise. James Fitzgerald was an owner of that team, and a guy named John Callahan. And basically, they had signed Jamie Hagia, and she had tore her Achilles in the exhibition match that night. So the next day, Matt Bryant, who owns Golden Line Training, and James Fitzgerald and John Callahan all come up in the stands, and I'm sitting there with Emily, and they're like, "Hey, Em, my wife was an absolute standout, especially at that combine." And they were like, we'd like to sign you. We got the permission from Tony because Jamie's going to be out. So before anybody else can even draft you, we want to sign you. So they signed Emily. It was freaking awesome. And thus, the weekend goes on, everybody plays out, they go to the draft process. And thankfully, luckily, I got drafted to the Rise. And so that was like, that was grit. And I always tell people, like, of all the CrossFit stuff that I accomplished, and I'm very proud of what we did. Playing a real live grid match that first Sunday that I was talking about in Boston, in front of nobody, like top 3 most electrifying experiences that I've ever had as an athlete, and as a player. So, and it was crazy. It was just like, whoa, speed, energy, racing. Like, it just took the whole thing and just turned it on its head for me. So I fell in love with it. I loved the sport. I loved like the ins and outs of it. I kind of like immediately drew to the strategy and the coaching stuff. I was not old, but I was getting older at that point. I was probably 27, 28. So in the CrossFit sense, a lot of your heavy hitters coming in are like 20, 22. And so anyway, we go out to Arizona and we train for the Rise, and I get to spend all summer, working side by side with James Fitzgerald. And again, you want to talk about somebody else who like steps in that next line of people that I got to kind of, shadow and have them mentor me. And James had a major impact on me, man. And I know he's somebody that, the CrossFit space, you either don't know about him or you've, heard that he's blacklisted or all these other things. But James is the brightest guy I've ever met when it comes to really understanding what this all is. And so, took that, dove in the back end of my career there. Right. So that team lasted for about 3 years, and it was a really awesome thing to be a part of it and train, and got to be around some amazing people. The original team was, Bjork Odin's daughter and Marcus Philly, and, a lot of other big names in the sport at the time. So, I felt like a nobody just being around a lot of people that I got to train with and learn from. And, I still have a lot of good relationships with those guys and girls today. So that was kind of like the whole explosion from, how this whole thing came about. And the league ends, and I run into Mather at a CrossFit Regionals event. I was kind of maybe in my last year of like competing on a team. And Mather's like, I think I'm picking it up again. Like, me and Ruby are going to start it up. And I'm like, what do you mean, dude? Like, it's over. Like, you're crazy. It's over. And he's like, yeah, I know, but I think we're going to do it. And I was like, well, I think it's amazing. Like, I think that's awesome. But like, what does that mean? Because we were used to, you had an NBC Sports deal, players are getting paid. Like, what does this mean? So it was going to be this organic thing that they started in Florida. And again, I thought he was nuts. Loved him, but was like, no way this plays out. And sure enough, man, just kept a pulse on it and watched it slowly build. And then I ran into Mather in 2022 in like January or something down at a competition that I was coaching at, and asked him how things were going on, and checked out the league and immediately asked him if I could be involved. So that's the infancy, the prequel to this whole thing is, how do we get to that point? Because that's really where all of this starts to shape up. So
now you're in it, and I guess ownership at that point, it's not on your radar.
Not even close. So the joke is, when I first started having conversations with Mather, I asked him, is there anything at the league level that I can get involved in? And he said, yeah, absolutely. I had some conversations with him and Ruby. I wanted to dive in. And so what I was most interested in was helping out on the competition side, designing new match formats, creating rules and standards, and really just kind of at that time thinking about a trajectory that could potentially replace like the commissioner role that he's in, because he had voiced to me like, it would be cool to kind of like elevate this into a bigger role and have somebody that can handle this. So we had those discussions and we worked side by side for several years. The other thing that I did in the meantime is we needed the position is called a team relations manager to kind of handle all the operations behind the scenes with with Ruby and Lindsay, who are like the backbone of the whole league, and like, just putting everything, together for players and sponsors and uniforms. So I was just head first, like, how can I be a part of this? And then the season came around, and I took my family and we moved down to Fort Lauderdale for the whole summer, and just wanted to dive in and started reffing and quickly escalated into like a chief ref position, and was working also on designing new matches. And so for the better half of about 3 years, that's what I did. And when I started it, I said, Mather, there's two things I don't want to do. I don't want to own a team, and I don't want to ref. So in order to understand and work on the competition side of the grid, you have to have roots in reffing, right? So like as a CrossFit athlete once upon a time, like the idea of being a judge was like never, like never ever. And grid is like being a judge on warp speed, because the overall aspect of the sport is different than CrossFit, not just in what you can visually see, but like it's not a test of fitness, right? So it's a race, point blank, period. So yes, there are standards to that race. There are standards the same way that when you throw a ball across the plate, it is a strike, but an ump can call it a ball, right? And so like the keyboard warriors on grid, and I love this because it's just more engagement, but the keyboard warriors who specifically come from functional fitness will come over to the grid page and they're like, that's not a burpee, that's not a whatever. And they're probably right. But we're not out here to test fitness. We're out here to race. And so, yes, you should be upset that the standard is not being met. But that being said, it's the same way you don't get upset when your favorite team strikes out the final batter and it was probably a ball, So that's what people have to understand, is that there's this, it's so gray sometimes between the two. And as somebody who was, working with Brandon McMillan, who by the way is an absolute like monster part of this league, and I mean, hats off. I have the most respect for Brandon.
Tough job, man. Tough job.
Yeah, did that job side by side with Brandon, and to be able to slow the game down and really be fearless in making the calls in a split second. It's bad enough watching judges in CrossFit competitions just like watch people not lock out and continue to be like, you're good, right? Where the movement is, I mean, it's not slow, but like it's not fast. It's not even remotely close to as fast as what happens on the grid. And most of the time in CrossFit workouts, like people are suffering and it's just like a long, arduous thing. It's another thing to jump in on the grid and ref partner forward, right? There you go. Your heart is through your head the same way that those players are on that start line. And you're like, all right, guys, like, let's have a good match. Like you're trying to be cool. Yeah. And that, first of all, they're going to jump out. They're going to pick that first element up. They're going to start moving with it. That movement's going to be like crazy spastic, probably riding the line of the standard on purpose. And your call, good or bad, can completely affect the outcome of that race and maybe that match. So you want to talk about like boom, 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 right? You got to be locked in. And we coach that way. We talk about being active in the same way, like it almost has to be competitive for you, right? If you want to be a good ref, like it has to be so ingrained that you want to make that call. Not you want to call a fault on somebody, but like you want to make that call the right way, just as though it was in and of itself a sport for you. I know that's a weird way to think about it, but so yeah, man. Didn't want to
Yeah,
ref,
that
didn't want to
is.
on a team.
And there you go, doing a lot of both now, especially. So give me the timeline now. So now you like, when do you 100% go, Mather? I'm in. I'm 100% in.
I
Let me.
don't know if I ever did that. No,
Or are you still waiting to be 100% in?
I'm 100% man now. And I'll tell you what, like, so that story, like as much as I share, um, it's a big part of all of this because it paints a picture about one of the questions you asked early on, that just about like where does fitness come into this? And like in some ways, like fitness is really important to me. And it was a major part of why like I wanted to get into CrossFit. But if I was being honest, and I think a lot of people can ask themselves the same question, especially those that compete in the space. Like I mean, it's hard to find something more impactful, beneficial, positive than like a quality CrossFit community that is truly dedicated to like members and their fitness levels. Like I think it's one of the best things in
I mean,
existence.
outside of that, though, too, if you think about, I hate to use the word social atmosphere, but like I know people from when I moved to Florida from Memphis, Tennessee, and then moved from Fort Lauderdale to Tampa. Like I went to CrossFit to meet people because I knew no one.
That's right.
And then you end up finding some of my best friends that I could ever ask for in those gyms, people that you talk to today. You network. There are people that find their husbands, their wives, they have
Yep.
kids, and now like 20 years later, like it's like this thing that brought all these people together. It's beautiful in a sense, like if you
It
think
is.
about it, like
It
just
is,
what it
man.
offers
It's
people.
it is very unique, and I think that the main reasons, the drivers behind that, right, are what I was saying
Yeah.
before. Like when you're talking about that environment, and thinking about why that happens is like you have a bunch of people with similar goals who are like-minded in their approach, who are trying to learn from each other, learn from the coaching, but also are suffering together, right? And that's like the key aspect, right? It's why like teams are successful. Teams that suffer together and go through the shit, like oftentimes are the ones that, you know, raise to the top because when the going gets tough and or maybe there's unknowns, you know, our team is going to face a lot of unknowns this year because, you know, we're talented on paper, but you know, we've never played a grid match, right? So there's a lot of things that have to work in a very quick period of time cohesively. Now the other side of that answer, and what I said earlier, there's like if you're talking about my life or maybe you're talking about
Uh,
grid. And in a lot of ways, like I'm also in a lot of ways, I am also talking about CrossFit for me. And it took me a while. I said I had that identity crisis. It took me a while to figure out maybe why this was. And the answer to what I'm getting at is I'm not 100% sure if fitness was ever the main driver or if I just wanted to compete. Like, you know, like I very quickly, like I know I joined CrossFit gym because I was like, I'm trying to look like that guy over there that's, you know, carved out of stone and, you know, climbing a rope and doing all these like Navy SEAL looking things. But then, like, within a short period of time, I mean, that was a great driver for me and it's why I committed so much to it. But within a short period of time, like, I mean, look, I started CrossFit on January 4th of 2011 and I competed at regionals like that June. So like very quickly, and the open was in February. So very quickly it was like, figure this out. Yeah, figure this out. And once I did that and I put two and two together, like, oh, this is because I had a visual. I had videos of the CrossFit Games from 2010 to look at. So it's like literally anybody can go do this. You don't have to be on the tour. You don't have to be like sponsored by Red Bull. You don't have, you know, like this is
yeah.
it. You do the open, you make it through. We got this. So how hard can you work? How much can you suffer? And if you can check those two boxes, you know, kill your weaknesses and you know, elevate your game. You know, what's the timeline? Okay, I'm giving myself 3 years. Like if I can make it to the games in 3 years, that seems feasible. That's what these other guys are doing. and that is actually about when it worked out. Like it was a little bit quicker than that, but anyway, so that's kind of my answer. And grid was a big, like, grid scratches that itch like majorly,
Yeah.
because even though it's a product born of that environment, it's all about I mean, it's the same way that we look at the games, right? Like the disconnect and the connect. It's the same thing that makes it awesome, that takes away from it. With CrossFit and the CrossFit Games is like, we've got community and we've got fitness and we've got health and longevity. And then we have the games. And like, believe it or not, those two things used to be super close together, right? And we could also draw the line, because not every member of a gym was like, I got to compete at the games and I got to be doing the next, train camp program that comes out, and I've got to go. I need more. They just came to class, busted it, and then went home and lived their life as a professional and a family. So eventually performance, raises the bar for that. And, it's the same reason why people buy sports cars, and, they Ford rolls out, the F-150 commercial when they, bring the truck out and they drop a load of gravel in it and the dude's like, whipping it around like the desert. It's like, you're never going to do that in your truck, right? But I still want the truck, right?
Right.
It's because performance is sexy, man. And it's what people want. So grid to me like epitomizes that, because we're taking specialization and we're injecting it into the functional fitness space. But the sport itself, to me, like fitness is just the cost of admission. You know what I mean? It has nothing to do how fit you are as an athlete, how fit you are. What does it matter? Right? Like, look at the strongman side of the sport. Like, look at the power lifters. Trust me, there's plenty of super incredibly fitter than I'll ever be in my life, CrossFitters who play grid. But grid also has a space for, I don't think this is accurate, but you'll know what I'm saying. Grid has a space for somebody who's extremely strong and can't walk up a flight of stairs, right?
Yes.
So like, that's what I mean. Does that make it great? It makes it great the same way that football is great and baseball is great and all the other things are great. So that's me looking at grid like a mechanism to like compete and win. And then for your answer about like, when does it happen? Well, I actually in 2025, I was moving from Pennsylvania to North Carolina, and I had a lot of things on the plate, and I kind of met with Mather and Brandon, and I was pretty broken up about it, but I just said, look, guys, like, I can't do it this year. Like, there's way too much going on, and heart's not really in it because of that. Even though I love you guys and I love the sport, I just can't do it. And, Mather and I, we always stay in touch, and he knows that, this sport means a lot to me. And, so, we stay in touch, and basically I helped out the Atlanta Wild a little bit from a distance in 25, just helping out Danny, because, he heard that I was kind of out of the ref game, and he said, look, if you can help our team out some and just contribute with your input around movement, like, it would be helpful. I said, absolutely. Love to be a part of the sport. And so did that. And then after that, I was done. I was like, this is over, moving on, new life, new man. And Mather called me. I don't know the exact date. What is it now? It's April 8th. I'm going to say he called me in February. And I could be wrong on my dates, but that's what it feels like. And he said, hey, man, how's it going? I'm just checking in. I said, doing good. He said, well, man, we had this, situation, and we got an opportunity for, a new team. And I think he said, would you want to head coach it if I found the owners? And so, kind of like an idiot, without thinking, and I'm not even sure still why this happened, I just said, right away, I said, what's ownership look like? And as that came out of my mouth, I was like, why the hell would you even ask him? Who cares? Like, it literally, like, you're never going to do this. And he kind of just talked me through it. And I was like, okay, maybe it could work. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, maybe I have some interest in owning a team. And I remember feeling kind of like out of my body. Like, why do you keep saying these things? And I would love to head coach a team. But I don't know about ownership. And so we just kind of kept the conversation going. And I got to a point where, it started to feel like I should be I hate that word, by the way, but like I should be doing this. And so I took about 10 days, and I did two parts. I called people from the league, outside of the league, from my past, people who could potentially be sponsors, people who could potentially be players. Just reached out to a lot of different people. And that was like the positive thing that I did. And then the other thing that I did for 10 days was I tried to find every possible reason not to do this. Like I would just sit, I have a sauna downstairs. I'd sit in the sauna and just be like, all right, I got 1 hour. Like there has to be something that's going to hit me and be like, don't do this. And every time I did that, the more I started to look like internally, the more that I was like, no, I think I think this is for me. I think I need to do this. And so I asked Emily one night, I was like, look, I'm going downstairs to work out. I was like, just think on this. Cause like, I'm pretty close to telling them yes. And I was like, can you just like think on this? Cause if there's like anything that you think, or if in your brain, you're like, Cody, I know you're excited, but you're just going to like hate this in a little bit, then just tell me. Right. Cause it's no big deal. And when I came back upstairs, she was like, all right, I got it. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, look, she was like, once upon a time, somebody who didn't even know who we were decided to enter into this new sport that no one had ever heard of, that no one knew about, that nobody had any guarantees around. It was a lot of money to have a team back then in that original league. And they took that on to give people like you and me who were younger, definitely more fit. By the way, youth, age, we got a wide gap. So trust me, it's not like that. You can be a lot older than I was then. But the point is, they were like, we were younger, we were more fit, and do a lot more things competitively. And somebody decided to do this, and that gave us an opportunity. And after that opportunity, like the trajectory that occurred there, and the people we got to meet, the relationships we got to build, are a big part of like who we are and where we are. So why wouldn't we want to give that opportunity to somebody else? And I was like, all right, I was pretty much right there on the edge anyway. And I think I might have shed a tear, but I was like, yeah, I think you're right. It very much hit me, sent a shock through my body where I was like, yeah, like a lot of people stuck their neck out for something that they cared about, that they saw a bigger opportunity in. And, because of that, we got to do this really awesome stuff and have these amazing experiences that we otherwise wouldn't have had. And so, yeah, man, I mean, for me, it was like, that's the move. Like, yeah, I want to win. Yeah, I want to be competitive. How can I create a culture and an atmosphere that, I can be proud of, that, my family can be proud of, that my team can be proud of, and win some matches in the process and, contribute to this thing, give back to players, but give back to this thing that also basically gave me something when I thought I was kind of at the end of my line as a CrossFit competitor. So, very cool full circle moment.
Yeah, you get to pay it back. You get to be a part of the league, but also I find it just unbelievable, like the ability to own a team and build something from ground up. Like
Zero.
to me, I think that's pretty damn awesome.
You should try it.
No. I like being on this side of things.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
maybe one day, but we'll see. I won't rule it out. I guess
I
everything
know
is possible.
if that day comes.
So let's talk about, obviously you're in it. You've built a roster full of athletes. I guess, we're short on time. And so I just want to kind of go through a little bit of this stuff as far as the team. So what are your current expectations before we get into players? You know who you have, what the roster looks like, but like, what's the message to the team where you're like, all right, hey guys, these are their expectations for year one? Or do you even set anything yet? You just kind of wait until we practice and we kind of get to it?
I think there'll be some that get added along the way, but I think right now, and a big part of the recruiting process is just number one, I want the right people in the room. And what does that mean, right? It means that team sports are unique in with respect to the fact that all the outside life, noise, etc., goes away. So number one for me, like I'm a no drama guy, I'm a no bullshit guy. So I will always put the team above any individual. I don't care how many followers you have. I don't care who paid you. I don't care what this is. And that's clearly been established across every player that I have. So that much from a cultural identity standpoint is important because there will be drama in the sport, and the sport creates drama that is entertaining. There will not be drama that exists inside of our organization that tears us apart from the greater goal, right? Because we're a collective unit, we're a team, we are all one, period, right? Either you're on the boat or you're in the water. There's no in between. And I think for us, like, we have a lot of players who are excited to be behind that. And I think a lot of people, the way that I can speak that way is what draws them to the team. I think the other goals and expectations are just simply like high enjoyability, right? The other thing is we all get to do this. We all get to be around each other. And so we get to kind of compete and fight for a common goal. We're newcomers. We can make some noise. We can disrupt some things, or we can just, lull ourselves into sleep like everybody probably expects us to do, right? So I would choose the former in terms of maybe how I want things to go. But the biggest thing is just laying the groundwork for the future and making sure that everybody we have is cohesive and we're having a good time. And this is super enjoyable for everybody, and that we get our players to come back and excited about coming back in the future. So I think competitively, there'll be some expectations. One last thing I wanted to say on that, Daniel, is like, this is another expectation, is the way that we play the game. I think I've had a vantage point from inside the league. I've had a vantage point as a player once upon a time. I've had a vantage point as a referee. And I've had a lot of inside looks and inside discussions. As a coach now, as an owner, the one thing I want to make sure that our team understands is that grid is a sport. It is a sport like baseball. It is a sport like football. In football, there are pass interference calls. You're sitting on your couch. You don't like them. You have the luxury of standing up and throwing your, corn dog at the screen if you want. When you play a sport, move on, get over it, and get on to the next one. So how we conduct ourselves on the grid and how we play, trust me, leave it up to the coaching staff to be frustrated about bad calls. There will always be bad calls. I made a ton of bad calls. I made a ton of good calls. But we know as a team, we're not going to get every call that we want. And so culturally, I think we just have to have the expectation that, we're so focused on the work that we're out there to work. We're not worried about what's happening in the lane next to us. We're worried about who got this call, or, oh my God, their knees are extended, or I can't believe, there's a reason why we have rules and structure and challenge flags and all the above. My team expectation is to execute exactly what you're told to do when you're told to do it to the fullest extent. Expect to do a few more when needed, and get out of Dodge. That's it. And when we win a race, let's act like we've been there before. Be excited for sure. Get your flowers, as the kids say. But let's hustle back to the start line, because one race doesn't win a match, right? So that's That's just kind of what reflection, like where I see a team and kind of how I want them to be. And we're excited for that.
Yeah, ego checks. Obviously, one of the big things that all the coaches and owners have talked to me on the show about is ego and culture make the difference. You want to have players that enjoy the sport. They want to compete, but they want to do it within their role that the team is asking them to perform.
Yep.
Not because, oh, I didn't get into 7 races, so like I'm not getting my reps. Okay, well, but the people that did get in there are specialists in those areas, and that's why they're on this team, because they have a specific role.
Yep.
I think having that up front is huge, and it sounds like you're no drama, no nonsense. It's all about the team. If you're not about the team, then maybe it's not for you. And
do one rep,
no hard feelings. But
that's right. Yeah, because every player has an impact, and you may have been brought in for 1 rep, you may have been brought in for 100. But that's the deal, right? Is it's not about. There's plenty of other teams you can join if you're interested in getting yours.
Yeah, no doubt. So what do you think is going to be the hardest part of this learning curve? As I'll give you 2 different scenarios. So as the coach of the team, for you, what's going to be the learning curve for you? But then as the team gets into it, what do you think the learning curve for the team is going to be?
For the team is speed and transitions, understanding what grid really is, understanding the situational awareness, and not being deer in the headlights because it's really fast, and it comes at you really fast.
Why do you think that you can be the greatest CrossFitter, but like people talk about grid speed and like even the best CrossFitters in the league like have this tough time until they do it to know what that speed is?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I can speak to that all day because that was me. So I wasn't a star player by any means in the NPGL, but I was I was an outstanding CrossFitter. And so like there's a few races in a grid match that kind of lend themselves. When you think about triads and having workhorses who can run, you need them. But the best CrossFitters inherently understand pacing, and their bodies won't allow them to cross the red line. And again, it's like I don't say this to sound like arrogant. Like I'm telling you that I can hurt with the very best of them, right? Like once upon a time, like the very best of them. Okay. And so knowing that and knowing how deep I can get is like, it's a level that like I would question anybody. Like, let me see it. Right. So that's where I used to live in CrossFit land. And the reality is like, you got to get there in 0.3 seconds in grid. And a lot of CrossFitters they have a danger regulation system. You know what I mean? Otherwise, they wouldn't be as good as they are. It's the same reason why you do a 5-round workout of 400-meter runs and 15 overhead squats, and 10 people go out and they're done the first lap before you're done the first 200 meters, and then you beat them by 12 and a half minutes. It's like, well, they don't have that inherent system of understanding pacing and understanding the red line threshold. So yeah, I think that even the very best CrossFitters have a hard time, getting into that zone because it's very unnatural. So
Yeah,
you have to train it. Like you have to train that into yourself. I remember like doing a lot of work on the assault bike back in the day, before assault bikes were everywhere. That being a major contributor to some of the small percentage of like front end power that I could develop. And it was really interesting, man, because I spent this whole summer like front end power, and then I went home and I was trying to like compete in CrossFit competitions, and I was like dying. You know what I mean? Because it was like, oh man, I kind of beat this out of myself. So I had to relearn it.
so as an owner, or as a coach, what do you think the toughest?
Yeah.
What's the learning curve going to be there? Because obviously you've been in it, but now you're back in it from
Total different,
maybe not.
total different side of the coin, man. Yeah. I've got a lot to learn. I can tell you that right now. Strategy, same thing, awareness. So like I'm versed in, I can watch a match and I can tell you what I would do, but when you're dealing with 20 chess pieces and you're trying to figure out where they fit in any given circumstance, it's intimidating for sure. And I think that experience matters. And that's why, you have these perennial teams and, the Sharks, and FICO's done such a good job with them, and they continue to bring on talent. And prior to that, like you had Taylor, and, Taylor was all the same. Taylor was the same timeline I was, and, mega star in the old league, and came over here and coached. And, so I'm somebody that likes to surround myself with, people that know more than I do. And so, I try to lean on a lot of my friends and resources. And, I think for those who are willing to share, what they have and knowledge with me, that's great. But like anything, you're going to have to kind of drink from a fire hose for a little bit. So yeah, I would say just the hardest part is like, I know what to do. I think putting it into place and cutting teeth this season and trying to learn quickly from mistakes or like dumb mistakes is going to be the hardest part. It's the part that's most intimidating to me. Is I know that we should be competitive, and I know we have the roster for it, and I hope that I hope that I'm not the limiting factor because of being a coach, but I'm competitive, and so I know that I will give everything I have to make sure that's not the case.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the roster. Let's tell me, who are some people that we need to keep our eyes on, some people to look out for. I mean, obviously you want to say everybody, but
listen, man, I think I think everybody has a role. And what's unique to our team is we don't have anybody that's played on the grid before besides Kerry Billington. Oh my gosh. It's been that kind of day, man.
Her and Tyler, man.
Tyler,
let me tell you something. Tyler is one of the most underrated players in
absolutely.
Gridley.
We'll keep that a secret for now, right? No, look, I mean, those guys they're outstanding players. They were top of my list for, trying to get them over to us. I know they played for the Wild before. And it was a very tough decision for them. I will tell you that. And we were very listen, I love Danny. I love the Wild. I was texting Danny today. So I have a great relationship with them. And
is a great guy. Such a great
we love him. We've passed players, you know what I mean, to each other through the process. And I think what he does, he's one of the guys I talk about when I say, you can learn from. And I've always had a good relationship with Danny, even when I was reffing, he always wanted to learn and ask questions. And, likewise, I think I can learn from him. But, when I think about the Billingtons and their hometown, guys and girls from Carolina, and we wanted them, obviously to create some stability for the team and also just like what they bring. I mean, they're extremely talented, major pieces to our puzzle. And so I would say them, like looking at the two of them in this new uniform and kind of in a new role. Both of them I expect very much to be leaders for us. And I'll be able to lean on them as much as they'll be able to lean on me. So I think about them. And then we've got some new pieces, man, that I think they're gonna have to. I'm excited about them. I don't want to give too much information about what that looks like. Do I expect anybody's going to step out of their shell like right away and be, an MVP candidate or something? I mean, time will tell. But who can you look at from the standpoint of hey, we've got some big names on the team. We have Kristen Pope and Haley Joe Fuller, and we got some absolutely insane talent out of the grid trials. And I'm really excited about that. And some of those things, I think the most exciting part for me, most fun part for me was, kind of getting to play, general manager and in the sense of putting a team together and recruiting. Yeah. And so, a lot of these athletes, I did not know prior to this process. Maybe we crossed paths in the past, but it was really awesome getting to know them and have these conversations and build them up. So I would say, yeah, on the female side, I mean, take your pick, man. I think our female side is so deep. And then, on the male side, we've got some really, really good talent. Hunter Williams is a guy that I would look at. And then just on the back end, man, we have we've got guys that are gymnastically gifted, and all you got to do is check out the Instagram page and you kind of take your pick. But I like our roster. I don't know. I think we're a pretty complete team. We might be missing something, maybe one aspect, but I think every team does. And for me this season, it was ultimately about getting the right people in the room. So that's where it started from. But I think we're talented, and we'll see what comes from that.
Yeah, I mean that's priority number one, getting the right people with some talent, because X's and O's are great, but Jimmys and Joes, they make it happen. So you got to have the right Jimmys and Joes, and you got to be able to do those things. I would ask this, before we get out of here. If Carolina is going to compete for a championship this year, let's say they do. Let's say playoffs. All right. I think that's a good barometer to compete for a championship. You make playoffs. Yeah. What is the main reason why you would say that happened?
I mean, I think it has to be a couple of things. We've got to come together quickly. We've got to gel as a unit. And with that, I don't mean just how we hang out together. I mean, we've got to understand, these transitional aspects of the sport. We've also got to grab onto what this sport is very quickly and get up to speed, quite literally. And then what was the question again? What is the main reason as to why that happens?
If you guys are in the playoffs this first season, what's the main reason why that happens?
Because when I recruited players for the exact reason of people who want to fight, who care about each other, who will put the team before themselves and who are willing to go to whatever it takes to get a W. And so when you construct a team, not just exclusively looking at, how much weight does this person clean and jerk or whatever, but you start putting some of these other intangibles in place. I would say we're probably deep in the generalist side when it comes to roster, but I would say that was probably intentional. And so we've got a lot of depth, and we got a lot of a lot of talent inside of that depth. It's not just bodies. So yeah, man, I think why is because we're going to do things a certain way, and there's going to be a level of team culture and passion and excitement. And while we're new, and I'll tell you right now, I mean, every team we play is very good. We're going to play in the West Conference, right? So we have a stacked lineup. I think we open with the Bandits, and then we got to go play the Wolves, and then we got to play the Palms and the Venom. And I know that these are obviously we're brand new, and these teams are newer. The Bandits are newer, the Wolves are newer, but I mean, look at their rosters, right? Like you have got to respect these teams. But I would say in closing, I would say this, man, is like I don't really worry about let me back up a second so this is clear. I highly respect every team. I don't spend a lot of time worried about who's on the grid across from me, because it really doesn't affect us. It doesn't matter. And that's for me when I think about that. My background as an athlete and a lot of these players is like we've got a lot of talent. That talent's going to come together, but we're focused right here on this side, on our side, because it's truly the only thing that we're up against. And so the sport is designed as this race, but you can't play defense, right? So the greatest offense that you have is to be cohesive, to be transitional, to love your teammates, and to make this thing bigger than you, so that you understand when your number gets called and that bell rings, like you're going to get the job done. And I think I've put a team together of people that are going to do that. And I'm really proud of that group. And I expect us to get there. I do.
That's well said. I mean, we've had roundtable discussions with a bunch of athletes on here before, and that's been one of the things we go back and forth on. And I firmly put my feet in the sand that as an athlete, it shouldn't matter to you who's on the other side of the grid. As a barometer of where you are in that particular race, it's nice to have that marker, but it shouldn't dictate how well you do. You should go out there with the intention of doing the best that you can do every time. So if you have that mindset, it doesn't matter who's on the other side. And I think a lot of people get lost in that.
They do. I was just going to say that it's us versus us. And again, I've had the privilege of kind of being in a referee position, and teams fall apart. I mean, they fall apart because they get caught up with who's doing what on the other side of the grid, or how many reps are counted. It's like your focus is in the wrong place. You know what I mean? If you were locked into where you are, like, and again, nothing's perfect. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I'm perfect or that our team is, superior to any. We've done nothing. We've proven nothing. So we have everything to learn and everything to prove. But like the worst thing that happens is we go out there and we lose every match, and everybody expected that of us, right? But what if that doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And there's a difference.
You never know. That's why you show up. The good news is you got.
I think you're frozen, Daniel. You there? Oh man. Hey.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. Right at the end, too. Right at the end.
Start that one over. You cut out right at the beginning.
So Cody, what I was saying is, all right. So what I was saying was, the good thing is you guys don't open until the 20th. So it gives you an extra month to prepare, but also it gives you a set of matches to see who's who, what's what, and how it all goes down. So
Yeah.
Definitely, in my opinion, I think that's a good thing to have. I mean, as a new team. So,
Absolutely.
obviously on the 20th, you got the Bandits. It's not going to be easy, and like you said, you're in the West, and so there's a lot of things that you got to take care of. But man, after hearing you tonight, I think you guys are in the right place, and I'm looking forward to seeing the flight get after it, and it's going to be awesome.
We're gonna do our best, man. And like I said, I appreciate you having me on, and we're excited for the season. We got a lot of work to do. You're 100% right. I think getting an opportunity to look at some tape of this season is going to be helpful for us, more so just for you know showing the sport, right? Like to the team that it's just a lot of extremely talented players that are new to the sport and have to understand what can go wrong, what can go right. And so we'll be definitely paying attention to that as we try to polish up. Like I said, man, I mean, we've got four very, very strong opponents that I think are individually each capable of making the playoffs. So I don't take anybody lightly, nor should we, like, ever. Um, and anything can happen, man. So that's you got to bring it. You got to be on your game, and we're just going to stay focused on us and kind of getting this thing ready for the 20th, man. So we're excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I know you guys are. Best of luck. If there's anything I can do for you, Cody, reach out, man.
Yeah, yeah, we're excited, man. I will do, and um, yeah.
All right. Before we close, anything you want to plug or promote?
Well, sure, man. Absolutely. I mean, the Carolina Flight want to thank our sponsors so far this year. I mean, we've had a very short period of time, and we've had some people that have been very eager to get behind us. Obviously, our roster, kind of speaks for itself with regards to talent and audience, and some of those things have been really important for us. So you can see, obviously, I'm wearing the hat tonight, but Tier Sport. Shout out to Tier Sport. That's our title sponsor for this year. We just could not be more proud to, get the hookups from them and be sporting, Tier on the grid. And we think it's a really awesome fit, and we really love what they're about. And we bring a lot of the same commonalities to our approach, and the work is the way, and that's kind of what we believe in too. So shout out to them. Hard Work Athletics is another sponsor of ours that has been just phenomenal as a partner. Very, very gracious, and believes in us wholeheartedly. And Rich and his wife Jen are amazing people, and I very much encourage people to go visit their website, get some flight gear, buy some Tier trainers. And just last but not least, more recently, a buddy of mine is a longtime friend, and I mentioned earlier on the podcast, back in my days, we had no sponsors, but we had one. And there's a buddy of mine his name's Jeremy Pryor, and Jeremy's, he's rode with me for years and years, and he's got a small company that's called RSF. It's also a sports mentality kind of a company that talks about overcoming obstacles and how to handle adversity. And he's put a lot of excellence into that. And so RSF Planner is another sponsor of ours that I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out. And they've got great programs for they focus everywhere with sports psychology, but they focus on youth sports, and there's a whole platform and program for it. So it's really cool. So yeah, man, that's our our squad, and kind of who's behind us. So I'll tell you, I appreciate you letting me do that. Obviously,
Yeah,
I
of
know
course.
collectively everybody wins, and it's important when possible to get those things out there. But yeah, man, Daniel, this has been a ton of fun. You're doing amazing with the show. I
Thank you.
look forward to
Thank you.
watching it regularly, and if there's ever anything that we can do, or a part two or whatever you want to do, man, I'm always all ears.
I appreciate it, Cody. Just let the players know I'll be reaching out, try to set up some interviews and get to know them. We want to know more about the flight.
Look forward to that. Remember, first rule of Flight Club.
We don't
You don't
talk about it. That's
know.
right. That's right.
All right,
That
buddy.
is Cody Loeffler, everybody. If you like hearing Cody's story, or you just like hearing average Joes talk X's and O's, please share the podcast on Facebook. Head over to YouTube, subscribe, notifications. That way you're first to know when new content is dropped. We'll be back next week. Special guest, actually. Had to maneuver some things, so I'm working on getting a new guest for next Wednesday. I promise you, we're going to have somebody. Maybe somebody that is a grid league champion from last year. Who knows? I mean, hey, might have a shark on. We'll see. But hey, appreciate everybody. As always, remember, strong body, sharp minds, grid and grind all the time. We're out.